Joe and I worked on Ethernet management standards in the early 90s. And it was 10 years plus after Ethernet had been announced and specified. And people had been running Ethernet without it. And I believe that that was one of the major points during all of this battle is in Ethernet management was optional. And in FDDI in particular, you couldn't get the thing started without management.
I'm trying to remember, Steve, I remember meeting it the first time at Sun Microsystems. I was working at AMD and came out helping. Was that was FDDI?
That was FDDI.
Yeah. So Sun was...
My board was about 2 feet square.
Yeah. That wasn't all FDDI, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was your chipset.
Yeah, so Sun had the vision that this was going to be the workstation network of choice going forward, and Andy Bechtolsheim was behind it and so forth, but... yeah.
Notably, the software architecture group wasn't. They were absolutely convinced that nobody ever needed anything faster than a shared 10 megabit. And refused to put anything in the software layers that would take advantage of the higher speeds.
We had a conversation at IBM actually with somebody who said, I don't understand why we'd ever need more than 4 megabits. We don't really even understand why people need that much.
Let me take a slightly different position on management, Geoff, because I think you slightly missed the mark.
Okay. You mean I was wrong?
I would never say that. Wrong would be a moral judgment. Simply that in Ethernet, the management layer was ridiculously simple. To join the network, you had to connect to it physically. And you had to observe a ridiculously simple MAC protocol. If somebody else is talking, be quiet. In Token Ring and in FDDI, just to join the network was an extraordinarily complicated, convoluted process that used a contention mechanism to set up a predictable network. So the very nature of it, Ethernet had management, just the station management part was ridiculously simple because the method itself was simple. The stuff that we added later, I would argue, was more about administrative and operational issues and troubleshooting issues. And frankly, Ethernet was horrible to manage if you had a cable fault in a piece of goldenrod that snaked back and forth in a serpentine fashion over the ceiling. And somebody drilled a new hole to put on a new vampire tap, and one tiny strand of conductor got between the shield and the center. Tracking that thing down was a nightmare. So let's not give Ethernet a free pass on that. The early days of it were ugly, and until IBM's gift of structured cabling, it remained ugly. It only got marginally better when people got multi-point cheaper net repeaters, and you could at least segment the network a little bit to find problems.
Well, and to be fair, to attack that,
DEC took 3Com's ThinNet and deployed it on a point-to-point basis. They produced a multi-point repeater, and although you could put more than one machine on a port, it was very common for them to allocate one port per machine.
But it was also very common to have 10 or 20,
Yeah.
but 10 or 20 was still a lot easier than 100.
Well, and ThinNet, since it was fully connectorized, you could do a binary attack on it and split it in half and see which side the problem was on. You could not do that with goldenrod.
A couple of things come to mind. It's bringing back memories.
Are they real or just?
I'm not sure. How many people remember the hermaphroditic connector?
Very well.
Boy George.
Yeah, this was a connector that, not what a, both parts, neither part was just male or just female. They were identical and they coupled. IBM was very proud of that. They thought it was just wizardry, and they loved it. It was big and clunky, and I'd rather have lightning. The other, isn't it the case that FDDI came up with the notion of hubs? Is that correct?
I don't know. I believe it was actually .3 that
I thought it went from FDDI into .3,
so
and then it led to switched Ethernet.
I started in 802.3 in the spring of 1983. And I immediately got sucked into the project to specify a repeater because the Blue Book repeater specification was very nearly empty. There were already products on the market. DEC in particular had a product. But one of the first decisions that we made when we started meeting as a task force was that the repeater that we were going to specify would be specified in a way that it could have any number of ports. So that really was the founding decision for there being a .3 hub. And
Can you put a year on that?
yes,
Say what year that was?
yeah, the first meeting of the repeater task force was June of 1983.
Okay, so that predates FDDI concentrators back then.
But the term hub, I thought it came from FDDI.
Well, the terminology may have. And of course, when Synoptics launched in 1985, they were hub-based. It was a repeater that accommodated either fiber optics or IBM Type 1 cable.
And do not forget that there was the Starland hub
Yes.
in .3 that predates that by a couple of years at least.
So it comes after, the Starland hub comes after we started the repeater project.
But I mean in terms of product in the market.
Was that also 10 megabits? Or
No, it was 1 meg.
megabit. That's what I thought.
1 meg. 1 meg and stillborn.